was helping pioneer studyahton from the OHDSI perspective, observational health data science and informatics, because I also run the oncology working group, lead the oncology working group. But in OHDSI, so I help pioneer with development of the framework questions, development of the phenotypes, and streamlining the development of the package, and generally moving through the studyahton to the end and generating the results. The studyahton was, I think it was a great experience. It was the first time that an organization outside OHDSI were sponsoring and actually doing a studyahton. The question was novel in the sense that we were looking at an actual history of disease, more complicated problem to tackle. It brought a lot of people with different perspectives together. A lot of them were not a part of Pioneer, but they're all interested to help tackle important questions and add to the evidence that we have. We learn a lot through it. A lot of us learn how to frame a good question, what are the nuances of the data, the limitations, and how we can make it better. So compared to last year when we actually ran the studyahton, there are now so many of us who can actually do it, take it, and do studies at large scale. We've developed the same language, we know what we're talking about, and we know how to better move forward with tackling bigger and more important questions. So from that perspective, I think it was a success. And we made a lot of good friends and new collaborators. Real-world data generally defined as the data that is collected outside clinical trial setting. So it's collected for different purposes for patient care, the data that's coming from your insurer, from your medical, from your healthcare provider, the data that we're generating on a daily basis, a patient that's generating. Then the evidence that's being generated using that data. So you have the data, you have to apply proper methodology to make sense of it, to generate evidence. That evidence is called real-world evidence because it's coming from real-world data. There's a lot of value to the evidence that's being generated from real-world data or real-world data in general, right? So there's a lot that we can learn about the natural history of the disease, how different patients, what are the characteristics of patients who are suffering from a condition being treated, are they actually responding to specific treatment, what are the outcomes, and we have the advantage to see it at large scale across different settings, people coming from different countries in Europe, United States, or Asia, everywhere. And you can actually put this together to learn more about the disease, about the impact of the treatment, about specific diagnostic or prognostic markers, and anything that can help us inform, make better decisions. So for example, there's a lot of work that can be done on detailed characterization of patients to understand like a specific or come up with hypothesis that what specific patient population are more likely to benefit from specific treatment or intervention or not, that can lead to other like more informed like hypothesis-driven research, either clinical trial. I mean, healthcare research, like there's like studying human conditions and health problems. We always like go to clinical trials, and there's always been a reason for that. Human biology is extremely complex, and different events are interconnected. We actually don't know what we're measuring. If the thing that we're measuring is actually the one that is causing an effect. For a lot of this, and rightfully so, we've been always doing clinical trials. But we are at a different scale. Like, we have this data that's being generated every day at a large scale, different areas for different purposes. And we have the methodology we've developed and we've advanced in our knowledge of how to deal with this data, how to deal with confounding that's associated with observational data, with potential measurement issues or biases for like selecting the population or measuring specific outcomes. We've developed and we've learned so much, and we are more well equipped to actually tackle this question. So with that, we're at the very good stage to generate evidence from this data, so benefit from this and complement what we're getting from clinical trials. Clinical trials are generally conducted in a very well-controlled environment. So you select your population, you randomize them, and it's very, very detailed measurements within specific timing and scheduling. This doesn't happen in real world, and the majority of patients are not included in clinical trials. Only less than 5% of patients with cancer, for example, in the United States are included in clinical trials, which means that there is a huge gap for our understanding of what is happening with other patients. They're different in terms of their background, their characteristics, their conditions and comorbidities that makes them unique by their own, and they're not necessarily similar to patients within clinical trials. So there's always a question of, okay, what about others? Like, how should we answer this? And then we have this amazing resource called real-world data that we can leverage that with we have to couple it with the right tools, right methodology to be able to make sense of it and generate something that is good for the patient. So we're just in this path that we're getting more and more in terms of the data, and we're learning more. So what we need to do as a society, as a community of researchers, to come together, identify the important question, and work together to make sure that we ask them in the right way, we identify the correct data so we can actually solve different problems for the patients and help patients improve patients' lives.